by Martin Birch, so that's no surprise there. In fact, I was recording an album called Shock Tactics with Samson in the next door studio to Maiden, who were recording Killers, and I was taken in to listen to the mix, by Martin, who'd had a few beers. So when Martin, my producer, eventually Martin Birch, the late great Martin Birch, was a lovely, so he was a lovely, cultured English gentleman until he had a day off. In which case he used to go off. Often he would drink quite a lot and would have a complete personality transplant. And we called him Marvin, and he would start doing bizarre things. When we did Number of the Beast, he decided he would, at the end of the session, he would destroy the mixing desk physically. So the desk, it was actually going to be replaced, but after he'd finished it was definitely going to be replaced. So he would take the talkback mic, the thing on the little curly cable thing that sticks out, that you talk to the band with, and talk to the engineer. And he'd go, "Hewitt, does this microphone work?" No, Martin. No, that's not working at the moment. Well, fuck off then. And he ripped it out of the board and threw it across the room. Which channel is not working at the moment? Channel 16, Martin. What? This channel? Snap, right? And he went to the desk like that, incredible. And then he went over the road, where there was another engineer whose name was Victim, or his nickname was Victim. There were two engineers, Victim and Flood. I don't know why one was called Flood. I know why he was called Victim. And he was called Victim because there was once a band called the Trogs.
Oh.
The famous Trogs tapes, which is like an early Spinal Tap thing, So the Trogs tapes. So he was recording something, and he was the engineer. And they decided they would play a prank on him because he was very nervous. So one of them had a starting pistol, and the other one had a blood capsule in his mouth. And they manufactured an argument in the studio, and the guy goes, "I've had about enough of you!" Bang, 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 like that. And Victim ran screaming from the studio, and forever became known as Victim. So Victim was mixing something, and unbeknownst to him, Martin had turned into Marvin. So Martin is prowling around like the mixing studio, and Victim comes out going, "It's the great Martin Birch. I'll ask him for his opinion on my mix." Martin, what is it, boy? Come in and have a listen. I mean, he's like the bloke from Jaws, what is it, boy? There was a shark and it came on. And he sits down and goes, "Let's see how this works, yeah." Oh, Victim's like, that's quite loud, Martin. "Oh, shut up, don't teach your grandmother to suck eggs, boy." Speakers exploded and like smell of electrical burning. And he goes, "You've blown up the studio." And Martin just went, "Piece of shit," and walked out. So that was our life in Maiden, quite some evenings. But yeah, so that was the Killers album that he did. He shoved me in a chair, like one of those big like wheelie chairs that you have in mixing studios, like important executive chairs. And he said, I came in and he went, "Sit down there." I went, "Oh, okay." And then he shoved the chair at high speed, bang, right up to the desk, turned everything on full, and I was like, "Whoa!" Right for the next 45 minutes. And he goes, "That's fucking music, boy." And that was it. Yeah, Killers. I thought, yeah, he's right. Which artists were you most influenced by when you started your music career? Well, clearly Deep Purple and Jethro Tull, and a few weird ones. A band called Van der Graaf Generator, who sort of prog band. Who I actually liked them better than Genesis, but but you know, the Genesis were more popular. They're all kind of contemporaries of each other. Arthur Brown, because Crazy World of Arthur Brown, the world's first. It's the world's first concept album. God rest his soul. Produced by none other than Pete Townsend of The Who. Right? And all these incredible people on that album. So, those sorts of things. Purple. Zeppelin, not so much at the beginning, a bit more later. And then, of course, when Ronnie Dio joined up with, Richie Blackmore and the Rainbow, it was just like, whoa, what's this? So that was a bit, and of course Sabbath. But Sabbath have been a big influence right the way through from the first 2-3 albums, everything up to Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, basically. And then again when Ronnie joined them, it was like heaven and hell. What the fuck is this? And of course, who produced that? Martin Birch, exactly. Did you get a college degree in music, performing voice? No. You sound like a classically trained singer. I'm a fraud. I am a tenor, but I'm a fraud. I'm a fraudulent tenor. That's quite good, actually, a fraudulent tenor. I don't know if that's actually a classical definition of something. You get like a robust tenor, a lyric tenor. I'm a fraudulent tenor. There you go. I like that. Did any bandmates stuff their spandex? With what exactly? There's we're all much of a muchness here, aren't we? Soft or firm? Mattress. I kid you not. Firm. If you could travel time to any era, when and where would you pick? I'd quite like it if Sherlock Holmes actually existed, to be in like Sherlock Holmes' time, right? But Sherlock Holmes didn't exist. But I'd still think that period before the First World War, it's like a golden era of discovery, when people who were gifted amateurs could make real discoveries and do things. Bicycle engineers, learn to fly. The Wright brothers. So things like that were all possible back then. In the late Edwardian period, sort of like 1890 to about 1913, effectively. And the other one I'd pick would be definitely I'd spend Easter at the crucifixion. Just sort of things like, hello, it's a rotten way to spend Easter, I know, but, I'll save you a hot cross bun. We're back in 3 days, right? Back on Monday, yeah? Monday, yeah. So, just testing, so I'd just be sat outside, just waiting for the rock to move. It's all bullshit. Have you ever waxed any part of your body? No. No, I have to try and say that with as much significance as I possibly can, because waxing, I'm like, what fucking part of my body would I actually wax? There's something really strange about having a bloke that's got hairy bits, having it go back to looking like a baby. It's just strange, you know what I mean? Do you know the Rockwell Allen-Bradley clock is the largest full-faced clock in the world?
Woo!
I can believe that, because I on the way here today, I'm thinking, fucking hell, that's a big clock. What is that? and it's on the top of the Rockwell Robotics building or something else like that. That's a fucking weird place to put a big clock on top of a parking lot. You know, I mean, what's that all about? You know, but if it is, then it's a very cool, and not many people know that statistic. What happens when you die? Anybody know the answer to that? I'm up for that. What happens when you die? What happens when you die? Okay, I refer you to the stone and Easter, all right? Probably not a lot, I imagine. What type of training, conditioning do you do to remain competitive in fencing? Well, I mean, the main thing is to be about 40 years younger than I am, I think, to start off. I actually still compete. I compete in the veterans bit of fencing. We have like fencing competitions now for like old crumblies like me. So you compete against people of your own era. And you can compete against younger people as well, you know, but they cheat because they win. So with the vets, because we have world championships and all kinds of things, you know, you can get selected for things, but it's brilliant. All you have to do basically is, if you can live long enough, you just wait, and you're bound to get selected, because everybody else is dead. Could you? But seriously, I mean, I take my kit with me on, on the road, and where I have days off, and it's somewhere easy, like New York. I mean, I'm going fencing in Austin. I've got set up in LA, and I'm going training in Seattle. So I keep my hand in, because when I get back to Europe, I'm going to try and do some more competitions and bits and bobs. You know, try and get myself selected for something, the funny farm, perhaps. Could you talk about your time or experience in fencing, and how did you get started? Well, I got started because I wanted to fight people. I wanted to, because I'm 5'6.5", and therefore, you know, it's like little person syndrome. You know, Napoleon, Hitler, they're all like, you know, just want to fight people and rule the world. You know, so in my case, you know, I was getting pushed around by big kids, and I was just like, I want to box. I want to learn to box, because that struck me as being a reasonable way of fighting people on some kind of, you know, reasonable terms. But they didn't do any boxing at my school. And so we had a workshops teacher he was teaching, you know, like metal shop stuff. And he'd made, as an apprentice, he'd made like Excalibur. And he sort of turns up with Excalibur, and we went, whoa, that's so cool, you know. And he said, yeah, well, you know, you could make one, and of course I could also teach you how to use it. We went, what, eh? What do you mean? He went, well, I'm an amateur fencing coach. We went, what, like Errol Flynn, like Princess Bride, you know. He said, exactly. So we went, right, we'll sign up for that. So we did. We all signed up, and there was about 50 kids signed up, and then the week after, only 25 showed up, and then the week after, 15 showed up. But we were the ones that were really into it, and I was quite good at it, so I just carried on doing it, basically. That was the end of that. So it's the only sport really I'm any good at, actually, because I'm just 5'6.5", just too small for everything else. You know, maybe being, you know, which one of your solo albums is your favourite at the moment? Well, they do, you know, I mean, things do, you know, swip around. So I think if I was going to say a favourite one, I normally always say Chemical Wedding, because he just gets get out of jail free card, you know. And that was a really cool album, but I loved Accident at the Birth as well, because that was such a spontaneous record. We wrote the whole damn thing in like 8 days, that record. Incredible, right? Outburst of energy. It was like, wow. And I just had such great times recording those albums. Tyranny of Souls was different, because I was back in Maiden then, so it was a bit bitty and all over the place. But Tyranny of Souls is a fantastic record as well. I mean, a track like Navigate the Seas of the Sun, I'm like, fuck, that's such a great song, you know. So, but today, what's today? Come on, flip a coin. Chemical Wedding, Accident of Birth. Accident of Birth, right, there you go. Any chance of another solo album? Yes, that's what I'm going to do after I finish this one. So end of March, I've got 44 one-man shows, right? So I get done at the end of March, and I got 3.5 weeks in LA with Roy, and we're going to put the bones together for actually doing it this time. And then, of course, I go off and I'm touring with my folk rock group around the world later. How did you learn to fly? Well, find an aeroplane and an instructor, jump in, and the first thing that happens is that the airplane actually flies. All you need to do is just open the throttle and keep it vaguely in a straight line, and it will actually fly. You don't need to teach the airplane to fly at all. But once it's flying, you need to know what to do. It's not so much the flying bit that's the problem; it's the getting down on the ground bit. It's not so much how to learn to fly; it's how to learn to stop flying. What's the most unique plane you've flown? Probably the replica of the Spirit of St. Louis, which is up in the EAA Museum up the road in Oshkosh. I flew in the back of that. That was pretty awesome. And they give you the stick because you're flying it. Absolutely amazing airplane. I mean, horrible to fly. I was like, how the hell did he get it across the Atlantic? This thing is completely unstable in every axis of flying. You have to fly it the whole time. Otherwise, you end up like looking out the side window, going like that. But he liked it that way. He said it kept him awake. Lindbergh. A lot of early planes are like that. I mean, I fly a Fokker triplane as well, which is a replica of a World War I, Snoopy versus the Red Baron aeroplane. That is a very interesting aeroplane to fly. Again, once it's flying, it's wonderful. It's just getting it down on the ground and keeping it pointing in the same direction. That's the problem. What was it like when you first flew Ed Force One? Well, it was a fucking relief, to be honest with you, because we'd spent so long. I mean, the first Ed Force One was a 757, which was leased because if it flies, floats, or fucks, rent it. Okay. It was leased from the airline that I worked for. So I came up with the idea of doing it because we had a problem with Maiden. We couldn't get around the southern hemisphere and make it financially viable to do so because the gaps in the tour were too great. So the management were like, oh well, we're going to have to give up on this. I went, no, we can't. No, we don't have to give up. Come on. If we had a magic carpet, we could just do India, then Australia the next day, then like this. They did, yeah, but we don't have a magic carpet. I said, yes, we do. If we get a 757 and we strip out the back of it and we put the equipment on board, and then we put the band and the crew on the same plane, we can do a European or a US style itinerary, but on continents instead of states. And so that was the idea. So, the accountant went, oh, that's something wrong with that idea, it sounds too simple. But, accountants, the land of no, right? Yeah. It's too simple, no, it's too complicated, it's too easy, it's too hard, But we did it. I have to say, it was a bit more complicated than just take the seats out. We had to put cargo liners in it. We had to get stuff recertified. We had to, the authorities, our Federal Aviation Authority, the CAA, they made us put steel plates and bolt them to the back of the airplane, and then because the steel plates were bolted to the airplane didn't wobble around as much as it was supposed to, so we had to do stress calculations of what would happen if the rest of the airplane was wobbling and the back wasn't wobbling, and was the end of the airplane going to fall off? No, it wasn't, because it's a Boeing, and so on and so forth. It was endless, but we did it in the end. The only thing we weren't allowed to do was carry water in the rear baggage compartment where we had all the equipment. Because it was a fire compartment. We had these big bags, like huge sort of like plastic condom things that fitted over all the equipment. So if the drum kit started to spontaneously combust, which is common, you know, the fire would start and immediately go out because there'd be no oxygen. And we had cameras and we had smoke detectors and all this stuff. So the feds went, okay. They did a test once when they were throwing Molotov cocktails, petrol bombs. We took a hangar and we had petrol bombs and we were throwing them into these like fire bags. And we needed to see if the fire bag could withstand the heat of the flaming petrol bomb without the outside integrity of the bag being disturbed. The trouble was that the fire went out the instant we threw the into the bag. So they gave up in the end. They just said, okay, it's probably all right then, you know. And then the next problem was we lost quite a lot of storage. So the galleys that we normally have 3 galleys on the airplane, and we lost 2 of them, the back one and the one in the middle. So we only had 1 galley at the front, so we were very tight on storage for things like liquids. So we said, look, the space right at the back of the airplane is actually, there's nothing in there, there's no carts or anything in there, it's quite a big space. Could we use it for storage? We went, no. It's a fire hazard. We went, okay, what about water? No, why not? It's a fire hazard. Fucking aviation, right? Drives you mad. Captain Dickinson, what crew layover do you miss while and when you're hot on the what? Which on the line and you're buying your first officer's $15 bottle bar beers. Wow. Yeah, I don't know which hotels you stay in. You're more posh hotels than we stayed in. No, we just go around to the bottle shop round the corner. We used to go to some weird and wonderful places like Kyrgyzstan and stuff like that. So we wanted Kyrgyzstan, there was a fucking revolution, you know. So we sort of locked ourselves in the Hyatt. Luckily, there was a casino downstairs which was open 24 hours a day. So you just got ginormous beers and they were like, you know, $1 for a beer or something, for a big sort of stein of beer. So luckily there were 4-day layovers, so you could time to get over the hangover. What possessed you to get your pilot's license? And has this contributed to any songs? Well, actually quite a few. I mean, Kill Devil Hill is on the solo record. That's about the Wright brothers and the discovery of flight. Death or Glory is about flying a Fokker triplane. Aces High, clearly. Coming Home is an aviation song. There's a bunch of them. Silver Wings, that's another song on one of the solo records. So there's a whole load. There's probably some more as well, but I just can't think of any. Empire of the Clouds, right? So there's a lot of them, and yes, it has. What motivated you to become a pilot? Well, this is a weird one. Because the truth is, ultimately, yeah, it was my great uncle, but in between. But I thought I could never be a pilot because I was shit at mathematics, right? And then I discovered that the first pilot in Maiden was not me. It was Nico McBrain. Nico McBrain inspired me to fly. So we were rehearsing in an island just off the south coast of England called Jersey, not New Jersey, Jersey, right? So in the summer it's a holiday resort. In winter it's miserable as sin, Atlantic gales, and so all the hotels shut up shop. We rented one of the hotels. We had the equipment in the ballroom and we were songwriting. Okay. We got a little bit bored. Adrian would go fishing at the weekends. You know, there wasn't much to do, and Nico would go off and learn to fly. And me and my mate Justin, we went off doing fencing competitions. We'd been to Holland and Belgium. Fencing competition, get drunk. Another fencing competition, get drunk. Try get laid, fail miserably. Go to Paris, get drunk. Get on an overnight troop train, right? That ends up in a place called Cherbourg. Cherbourg is 10 minutes flying time from Jersey in one of those little propeller, tiny little 2-engine things. And there was a service that left at 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, 8:01 in the morning we arrived to see the airplane disappearing. And then the only person in the airport was the gendarme who was half asleep in his little box. And the guy that ran the cafe, who realised that we were English and immediately shut the cafe and drove off at high speed. So we were left alone, and I said to Justin, I said, fuck, I'm really sorry about this. The next flight is in 12 hours' time. What the fuck are we going to do? There's not even a coffee machine or anything. Shit, I know. Nico can fly. Why don't I get Nick to come and rescue us? Get to the payphone, shovel a load of money in. I get Nick on the phone at the other end. Nick, yeah, what's up, mate? Yeah, what's up? I said, Nick, we're stuck here in Sherborne, but you can fly. Could you come and pick us up, and I'll split the gas with you or something, or whatever. He goes, yeah, well, no, there's a problem, you see, because I've not got my full licence yet. I've got to fly with Charlie. I said, who's Charlie? Charlie's my flight instructor. Ex-Royal Air Force, great geezer, lovely geezer. I said, okay, so are you saying you can't do it on your own? No, I can't, no, I've got to go with Charlie. Okay, so maybe you could have a lesson with Charlie on the way over, and then have another lesson on the way back, and we'll just watch in the back. Will that work? Well, I have to ask Charlie. I said, well, you ask Charlie, I'll call you back. So, half an hour later, I call him back. He goes, yeah, we're coming, we'll be there. Yeah, don't worry, we'll be there. I said, well, when? I don't know. Look out the window, you'll see us. So I'm looking out the window and down this runway, and the sky is grey, the clouds are like low. It's not quite drizzling, but it ought to be. The wind is lashing up the waves in the ocean, and windsock is horizontal. Even the birds are flying like this. I'm like, wow, okay. And then I see in the distance this little speck that gets bigger and bigger. I think it's a bird. It's not a plane, it is a plane. It's Nick on the plane. And he's doing the same as the birds, basically. And it comes in and it lands and then taxis round and then the propeller stops and this bloke jumps out the other side and starts doing something with the engine and Nick opens the door and takes one look at us and goes, oh, fuck. I'm like, what have we done wrong, I mean, I'm 5'6.5". Justin's 6'2", big lad, and we've got two sort of like small golf bags, basically fencing equipment. So in effect, we're almost 2.5 people, right? And I've never been near one of these small aircraft before, and I'm like, wow, this is cool. Yeah, 2 doors. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4 seats. And they come in different sizes. I now know, because I've flown all the different sizes. So, there's it's a Piper Cherokee, but there's a 200 horsepower engine can go on it, a 180 horsepower, a 160 horsepower, and there's the one that we had. The 140 horsepower engine. But the clue is that they all only have 4 seats. I wonder why. So how much can you actually put in a Cherokee 140 horsepower Piper? The answer is 2 human beings and 2 small hamsters in the back. But we were rather more than that, so we started to get in the airplane. So I get in the plane and I'm like, it's very cramped, My mate Justin gets in and we all, what we do with the big golf bags? Oh, there's a baggage compartment over our shoulders. Shove it over there. Well, that's full now. What do we do with the other one? Well, better put that on our laps. So we're sitting with it on our laps and I'm looking over Nick's shoulder and suddenly the airplane goes Wow. And the nose wheel is dangling in the air and the tail is sitting on the runway. Hey, wow, Nick, that's cool. Is that normal? No, it's not fucking normal. It's definitely not fucking normal. No. Charlie! So Charlie is completely unflappable. I mean, Charlie's got a handlebar moustache like that, waxed at both ends. You could hang your knickers off both sides of his face like that. And he's like, okay, chaps, okay, don't panic. Got a plan, got a plan, got a plan. Okay, now, Nick, everybody lean forward. Yeah, quite a bit more than that. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to lift up the tail of the airplane. Oh. So now it's level, right? And when I tell you, I want you to start the engine. And when the engine started, I'll jump on the wing into the cockpit and we'll be off. Everybody lean forward. So I'm like, wow, this is cool. You know. I said, okay, Nick, we better start the engine. Yeah, I'm doing it, mate, I'm doing it. And he's got this piece of paper out. And I said, yeah, all right, sure, I know. Backmaster to on, and it mags to this, and then turbines to spit. Oh no, that was the Batmobile. Yeah, and I said, "What are you doing?" He says, "It's a checklist." I went, "It looks suspiciously like the instructions to me." He said, "No, it's a checklist. It's aviation." I said, "Don't you know how to start the engine?" I said, "I can't even drive a car, and I can start a car engine." Don't they teach you how to start the engine? You go, no, you've got to do the checklist. It's aviation. Everybody's got to do the checklist in aviation. I went, fucking mad. So he's going through it all, and then he opens the door. Why'd you open the door? I've got to make sure there's nobody standing around the aeroplane. I said, well, like the bloke that's holding the tail off the front. He's like, yeah, but there might be somebody standing by the airplane that might walk into the propeller once I start the engine. I said, there's nobody around for 50 fucking miles apart from the bloke holding the tail up, all right? He said, no, but I've got to do it. It's a checklist. I went, you're mad. He's all mad. He goes, clear prop! I went, right, okay, so that's Harvey the Invisible White Rabbit has fucked off. Presses the tit, and suddenly, the engine bursts into life. The overwhelming smell of petrol fills the cockpit. Charlie leaps onto the wing, leaps into the cockpit, and doors still open, seatbelt's not even on, guns are throttle, and we go onto the runway, which is very long. Cherbourg has a very long runway, built by the Germans during the Second World War, extremely efficient, very big, heavy coastal command aircraft going to go and bomb the Englanders or whatever they were up to. So it took a very long runway, and Cherbourg has got a very long runway, and we've used all of it. So we accelerate down the runway. Well, no, it's too strong a word. We sort of trundle slightly faster down the runway, and we get to the end, and every inch of that runway is used up, and then we get to the end and we fall off. But luckily, between us falling off the end of the runway and striking the surface of the sea, we started to fly. Courtesy of the curvature of the earth. And we start flying, and you know, Charlie's changed colour now. He was formerly a sort of fairly tanned-looking chap. Now he's got slate grey with projectile beads of sweat. He's like, everybody lean forward, a little bit more. And Nick, of course, can lean a little bit further forward than everybody because of his nose, you know. And I'm leaning forward, I'm thinking, wow, I'm getting the hang of this flying business now. I know what, that looks like the speedometer. Yeah, it's not going very fast, but, oh well, I suppose we are flying, yeah, okay. What's that? That's the altimeter. Right, it's not moving, is it? And what's that one? Nick, what's that one there? That's the vertical speed indicator. No, there's no vertical speed whatsoever, Nick. No, it's a weird instrument. It's always a bit of lag. Bit of lag in the vertical speed indicator. See what, like about a week? And then it moved. I mean, it moved. And sure enough, it moved, and we were going up like, oh 100 feet a minute, oh, you know, which is lucky because, I mean, I could see in the distance, I could see the cliffs, the white cliffs of Jersey, and the airport was on top of the white cliffs of Jersey. But the white cliffs of Jersey were a little bit higher than the cliff that we had fallen off of in Cherbourg. So the next 10 minutes was basically a game of chicken between the front of the airplane and the white cliffs of Jersey. You know, you can imagine the conversation, you know, hello, it's Golf ABCDEFG requesting permission to land. It's like, yes, you're clear to land. Where the fuck are you exactly? Oh, like that, Kilroy over the top and bang. Suddenly we land and we taxi off and we go behind a load of rubbish bins and the engine stops. And I realised that the reason we're getting out there is so nobody can actually see how many people got out of this aeroplane. Because otherwise they're going to turn Charlie's licence into a cornflake packet. So we get out and Charlie goes off to reconsider his future and Nick goes, fucking hell, I never do want to do that again. Oh my God, you know. But again, I was inspired. I mean, I thought, it set me going. I was like, wow. And I was worried about being bad at maths. I mean, honestly, if a drummer can fly. How do you prepare for a tour? You learn the words, you sing a lot, and you make sure you're not too fat. That's it. Can we hear part of Alexander the Great? Oh. He died of a fever in Babylon. There you are. What was your favourite solo album to record and why? Now that was definitely, I think, Chemical Wedding. It was quite hard work to record that album because we were really pushing things that we didn't know exactly where they were going, so we were really trying things out, and that's why it was so satisfying at the end to get an album that was like, wow, that's a really fucking groundbreaking album. It doesn't sound like just an ordinary rock album. That's something really special in terms of sound. So Chemical Wedding, I think. Any more solo albums? Well, yes, I do hope so. We've got that, that's on the plan. Tears of a Dragon means as much to me. Well, it means so much to me, sorry. What does that song mean to you? Well, Tears was one of those songs, to be honest with you, it could have ended up on a Maiden record. But it didn't because, I can't remember why, but anyway, it didn't. I don't think maybe I even presented it, but it was the remains of something that probably I was cooking up for somewhere in time, and it just sat around for a while and then got turned into Tears of a Dragon. So I was going through a funny, you know, one of those moments of sort of self-doubt, you know, when you think, wow, what do I, you know, where do I go? Left, right, straight ahead, what do I do here, you know? And it was on the cusp when I, you know, decided to, you know, walk away from Maiden and sort of find out what the universe had in store for me, you know? And you'll only do that, you only find out, it's that, you know, leap and the net will appear, right? And that is kind of the ethos that was in my head when I was writing Tears of the Dragon, and I used the water as the kind of the medium to express. It was the subconscious, it was abandoning yourself to the whims of the universe and going, if I'm supposed to be a singer, I'll come out of this okay. But if I'm not, I better learn about that right now so I don't waste everybody's time for the next 20 years, right? So quite fatalistic, you know, it sounds quite depressive really, but it wasn't. It's a kind of uplifting song because it's a song about abandonment, basically, in a good way. Give it up and just open yourself up to what happens next. That's what the song is all about. Will you ever sing Tears of the Dragon at a Maiden show? I don't think so. We've got a few other good songs, you know, as well. If not, how about singing a bit of it tonight?
Woo!
I throw myself into the sea, release the wave, let it wash over me, to face the film I once believed, the tears of the dragon, for you and for me. Thank you very much.